Afghanistan is a land of harsh beauty, mountain ranges that scrape the sky, desert plains that stretch endlessly, and villages where time seems to have stopped. It's a country shaped by conflict and resilience. But some say the land itself is cursed, that its sands carry the weight of ancient, forgotten terrors. I never believed any of that. Not until my last tour of duty. I was stationed at Forward Operating Base, FOB, Hammer in the southern province of Helmand. It was 2012, and we were there on a routine mission. Stabilize the region, keep an eye on insurgents, and provide support to local forces. The usual grind. I was part of a tight-knit squad of 8, led by Staff Sergeant Cole, a hard-ass with a strong sense of duty. We were brothers in arms and we'd been through hell together in multiple tours. I trusted those men with my life. FOB Hammer was an old base, thrown together quickly during the height of the war. It wasn't much to look at, just a few concrete buildings surrounded by a chain-link fence and some hastily dug trenches. The nearest village, Darvash, was about 10 miles away, and we patrolled it regularly. Darvash was like many of the villages in Helmand, poverty-stricken, battered by years of war, but still hanging on. The locals mostly kept to themselves, but there was something about Darvash that felt different. The villagers always seemed wary, like they were hiding something. They'd avoid eye contact, speak in hushed tones, and they never, ever ventured out after dark. That should have been my first clue that something was wrong. It all started one evening during a routine patrol. We were driving through the desert in our convoy when one of the Humvees broke down. It wasn't unusual, the heat and dust took a toll on the vehicles. Private Morales and I stayed behind to help fix it while the rest of the convoy continued on. The sun was setting and the desert was beginning to cool, casting long shadows over the dunes. As we worked on the engine, I noticed something odd in the distance. A figure standing on top of a dune just watching us. I nudged Morales. "You see that?" He squinted and nodded. "Yeah, weird. You think it's a local?" "Maybe. But why the hell would anyone be out here alone?" We kept working, trying to ignore it, but the figure didn't move. It just stood there, perfectly still, as if it were waiting for something. My gut told me something was off. After what felt like an eternity, the convoy circled back to pick us up. I looked up at the dune one last time before getting into the Humvee, but the figure was gone. Back at the base, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I told Cole about the figure, but he shrugged it off. Could have been a shepherd or something. Locals wander around all the time. But it didn't feel right. Something about the way it had just stood there, motionless, made my skin crawl. I tried to forget about it, but that night as I lay in my bunk, I heard something strange, faint whispers carried on the wind. I thought it was just my imagination, the sound of the desert wind whipping through the base. But the next morning I found Morales staring out into the desert, his face pale. "Did you hear it last night?" he asked quietly. I hesitated. "The wind." He shook his head. "No voices. It sounded like they were calling to me." I laughed it off, told him he was just tired, but deep down I knew exactly what he meant. There was something out there, something watching us. And it was getting closer. A few days later we were ordered to head back to Darvash for another patrol. The village was always quiet when we arrived, the streets deserted, save for a few old men and children who watched us warily from doorways. But this time was different. The village felt wrong. It was too quiet. No one came out to greet us, and even the air felt heavy, like the silence was pressing down on us. As we moved through the streets, Cole ordered us to split up and search the area. I paired up with Corporal Davis, and we headed toward the outskirts of the village, where the old stone houses gave way to the open desert. That's when we saw it, a cave half buried in the side of a rocky hill. It wasn't on any of our maps, and there were no signs that it had ever been used by the locals. "Let's check it out," Davis said, his voice barely a whisper. I didn't want to go near it. The mouth of the cave looked like a gaping wound in the earth, dark and forbidding. But orders were orders, so we approached cautiously. As we got closer, a foul smell hit us, rotting meat mixed with something metallic. My stomach churned, but I pressed on, rifle at the ready. Inside, the cave was pitch black, the air thick and oppressive. We clicked on our flashlights, sweeping the beams across the stone walls. There were markings, ancient, carved deep into the rock. They looked like no language I had ever seen, twisted symbols that seemed to move if you stared at them for too long. At the back of the cave we found a small alcove. In the center of it was a pile of bones, human bones. Some of them were old, brittle and yellowed with age, but others looked fresh, the flesh still clinging to them. Davis cursed under his breath, backing away. What the hell is this? I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that we needed to get out of there, fast. But as we turned to leave, the whispers started again, louder this time, echoing off the walls. They weren't just coming from outside, they were coming from within the cave. We bolted, running back toward the village as fast as we could. When we reached the others, I tried to explain what we had found, but the words wouldn't come out. I could still hear the whispers, gnawing at the edges of my mind. Cole could see that something was wrong, but he didn't press us. He just ordered the squad to pack up and return to the base. That night, the nightmare started. I dreamed of the cave, of the bones, and of the figures standing silently on the dunes. But there was something else too, something in the dark watching me. Its eyes were hollow, empty, but they burned with a malevolent hunger. It whispered to me in a language I couldn't understand, but the meaning was clear. It wanted me. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat. But the worst part wasn't the nightmare, it was that I could still hear the whispers. They were faint, almost imperceptible, but they were there, scratching at the inside of my skull. Over the next few days things got worse. Morales wasn't sleeping. He'd sit in the corner of the barracks, rocking back and forth, muttering under his breath. Davis refused to talk about the cave, but I could tell he was hearing the whispers too. Even the other guys were starting to act strange, paranoid, jumpy, like they were expecting something terrible to happen. And then one night it did. It was just after midnight when the alarms went off. I grabbed my gear and rushed outside, thinking we were under attack. But there were no gunshots, no explosions, just silence. The other guys were already out there, standing near the fence, staring into the desert. That's when I saw them, the figures. Dozens of them, standing on the dunes just like the one I had seen before. But this time there were more of them. Their faces were hidden in shadow, but I could feel their eyes on me, cold and hungry. They didn't move, didn't make a sound, but the whispers were louder than ever, filling the air like a low hum. Cole ordered us to fall back, but it was too late. Morales broke ranks and started running toward the figures, screaming something I couldn't understand. We tried to stop him, but he was too fast. He disappeared into the darkness, and the whispers grew louder, like they were laughing at us. The figures melted away into the desert, and Morales was gone. The next morning we searched for him, but there was no trace. Cole filed an official report, listed Morales as MIA, but we all knew what had happened. The desert had taken him. The days that followed were a blur. The whispers didn't stop. They followed me everywhere, even in broad daylight. The other guys were hearing them too, but no one wanted to talk about it. We were all on edge, waiting for something to happen, but we didn't know what. Then one night Davis snapped. He came into my bunk, wild-eyed and shaking. "We have to go back," he whispered. "We have to go back to the cave." I tried to talk him down, but he was insistent. He said the whispers wouldn't stop until we did what they wanted. He said they had Morales and they would come for the rest of us if we didn't go back. I didn't believe him, but part of me was terrified he was right. Against my better judgment, I agreed to go with him. We snuck out of the base that night, under the cover of darkness, and made our way back to the cave. The desert was eerily silent, the whispers louder than ever in my mind. When we reached the cave, the stench hit us again, rotting flesh and something else, something older, more ancient. Davis went in first and I followed, my heart pounding in my chest. The markings on the walls seemed to writhe and twist in the beam of my flashlight, and I could feel something watching us from the shadows. At the back of the cave, where the bones had been, there was something new, a figure hunched over, its back turned to us. It was gaunt, its skin stretched tight over its bones, and it was whispering, its voice a low, rasping hiss. Davis froze, his flashlight shaking in his hand. "Morales?" he whispered. The figure turned slowly and I felt my blood run cold. It wasn't Morales. It wasn't even human. Its face was a grotesque mockery of a man's, hollow eyes glowing with a sickly yellow light. Its mouth was too wide, filled with rows of jagged teeth, and its skin was cracked and dry like old leather. It smiled at us. The whispers grew deafening and I realized too late that we had made a terrible mistake.